Upbeat,
Oh no, what's
curious
wrong with
intro
it
music
now?
fades in,
I think it's the
then
alternator again.
softens.
Let me just check the
Have you ever made
connections.
a choice so difficult, it felt like your entire future was on the line? This is one of those stories. His survival depended on this job interview. But when a stranded woman begged him to help fix her broken car, he stopped. He helped her even though he was almost late. Because of this, he missed the interview. He did not know who she was. He did not know that helping her would change his whole life. Who was this woman? And how did this simple act of kindness turn everything around for him? You won't believe the incredible twist of fate that was about to unfold. Sit back and find out as we delve into this touching story here on Storysphere. Music fades out, ambient city sounds fade in. By the busy roadside on the far side of the city, a simple man walked down to the bus station. His name was Jude. He held his brown file close to his chest as he walked fast. There was hurry on his face because he had a job interview. But apart from the hurry, anyone who looked at him could see something else. Deep sadness. Jude looked worried. His eyes looked tired. His heart felt heavy. He whispered quietly, "God, please let today be my lucky day." But life was not always like this. Jude used to be a bright, happy man. Back in his university days, he was the best student in his set. Right after school, he got a good job as a prochemical engineer in a big company. Everything started well for him. Money was not a problem. He rented a beautiful apartment in a choice area of the city. He bought a good car, and he married a beautiful woman named Lucy. Jude loved Lucy. He took her out for dates. He bought her gifts. He did everything to make her happy. For a time, life was sweet for the two of them. But something happened that changed everything. The company Jude worked for went bankrupt. Many workers lost their jobs, and Jude was one of them. He tried again and again to get another job. He went from office to office. He sent so many applications, but no call came. Nothing worked. Meanwhile, Lucy still wanted the same life. Trips, gifts, new clothes. Jude could no longer afford any of it. Soon, Lucy began to change. She became insultive and harsh. Her voice was no longer soft. She blamed him for everything. One evening, after a long day of job hunting, Jude sat on the edge of the bed, tired and quiet. Lucy stood at the door with her hands on her waist. "Jude, look at you. Is this how a man should be? You cannot even buy small things for your wife again." Jude lifted his eyes slowly. "Lucy, please. I am trying. Things will get better soon." "When? Jude, when?" She fired back. "You said that last month. You said it again last week. I am tired." Jude looked down, helpless. Day after day, the insults continued. The pressure grew. Their savings went down fast. Jude could not pay the house rent again, so he sold his car. He sold the furniture. And finally, they moved to a small, remote part of the city where rent was cheaper. Still, Lucy did not stop. That morning, Jude woke up to Lucy shouting again. "You want to stay in this house? You better find a job today," Lucy yelled. "I cannot continue living like this." Jude sat up from the bed. His eyes looked tired. He wanted to speak, but before he could say anything, his phone began to ring. Lucy folded her arms. "Who is calling you this early?" Jude picked up the phone with shaky hands. "Hello, good morning," he said. A man's voice came from the phone. "Good morning, please. Is this Mr. Jude?" "Yes, sir," Jude replied softly. "This is Metro Prochemicals PLC," the man said. "You applied for the engineering position. We want you to come for an interview today by 8 a.m. Jude's eyes widened. Metro Prochemicals PLC was a big company. He knew the place. It was far from where he lived now, and the time was short. "Yes, sir. I will be there," Jude replied quickly. Lucy looked at him with a raised brow. "So, someone finally called you?" "Yes," Jude said, his voice full of sudden hope. "Lucy, this is Metro Prochemicals PLC. This is a big chance." Lucy did not smile. She simply turned away. "Then you better go now." Jude changed into his best shirt, combed his hair, and held his file tightly. He stepped outside quickly. Now, as he got to the bus station, he paid and entered the first bus he saw. But as they moved, The bus got stuck in heavy traffic. Cars were not moving. People were complaining. Jude looked at his wristwatch again and again. "Oh God, please help me," he whispered. After several long minutes, the traffic became worse. Cars were hardly moving. Jude kept checking his wristwatch, panic rising in his chest. He looked out of the window and said quietly, "If I stay here, I will miss everything." As soon as the bus reached the nearest bus stop, Jude quickly got down. The traffic was still heavy and the road ahead was full of slow-moving cars. He took a deep breath. "If I walk fast enough, I might still make it," he whispered. He held his file tightly and began walking very fast toward the company. The place was still a considerable distance away, but Jude believed that if he walked fast enough, he could reach there on time. Jude sighed. His mind went back to all the pain at home, all the insults, all the struggles. But he shook his head. He whispered, "Let me just get there on time." He walked fast, holding his documents tight. He was trying to beat time. He had no idea that something unexpected was waiting for him on that same road. Something that would change everything. That same morning, on a road not too far away, a rich, elegant woman named Madame Rose sat behind the wheel of her expensive car. Her face wasn't calm. She was angry. Her driver had called her earlier. "Madam, I am so sorry," he said on the phone. "There is an emergency at home. I cannot come today." Madame Rose closed her eyes in frustration. "You should have told me last night," she said. "I have an important meeting this morning." "I am sorry, madam," he replied quietly. Now she had no choice but to drive herself. Madame Rose was a very wealthy woman. She owned many businesses in different parts of the country. That morning, she was heading to one of her companies for a big meeting with her investors. They were supposed to sign a major deal. It was a deal she had worked on for months. She drove with speed, but suddenly something strange happened. Her car began to slow down. The car slowed more and more until it stopped completely by a quiet street. Rose tried to start the engine, but it didn't respond. She tried again. Nothing. "Not now, please," she said softly, pressing the key again. Still nothing. Finally, she opened the door and stepped outside. She looked around. The road was quiet. No car, no person, only the sound of her own breathing. She rubbed her forehead. "Why did my driver decide to disappoint me today of all days?" she said to herself. She looked left, no one. She looked right, still no one. Meanwhile, not too far away, Jude was walking fast down the road. He checked his wristwatch again and again. Then he decided to take a shortcut through a quiet street. "If I move fast, I can still make it," he whispered to himself. When he reached the corner of the street, he suddenly heard a gentle voice behind him. "Excuse me, please, young man, can you help me?" Jude froze. He turned slowly. He saw a woman standing beside a car with her face full of worry. He looked at her, then looked at his wristwatch. He was almost late. He took a step back. The woman spoke again softly. "Please, I need help. My name is Rose." Jude hesitated. "Madam, I'm sorry, but I have somewhere important to go." She nodded. "Please, sir, I don't know anything about cars, and there's no one around. Please, can you just look at it? I'm scared to stay here alone." Jude swallowed hard. His mind began to fight itself. If I stay to help her, I will miss my interview. If I walk away, something bad could happen to her. This place is empty. What should I do? Jude looked at her again. She looked helpless. She looked scared. He sighed deeply. "Okay, madam. I will help you. Let me check." Madame Rose's face lit up with relief. "Thank you. Thank you so much." Jude walked to the car, opened the bonnet and bent to check it. He touched different parts, listening carefully, looking closely. After a few minutes, he said, "I think I know the problem. Let me fix it." He started working on the car, fixing it carefully. Finally, he closed the bonnet. "Madam, try it now." Rose entered the car. She pressed the engine start button. The car came alive. She smiled with joy. "It is working. Thank you so much, young man." Jude nodded quickly. "I need to go now. I'm already late." Rose opened her door slightly and stood beside the car. Wait, where are you going? Let me give you a ride. It's the least I can do. Jude shook his head gently. Madam, but where are you heading? Rose pointed to the left. I'm going toward Broadview Road. My office is in that direction. Jude's heart sank a little. He pointed to the opposite side. I'm going the other way. My place is far from yours. Rose looked at him with concern. Are you sure? You helped me. I don't mind taking the long route. Jude forced a small smile. Madam, please don't bother. Just go your way. I'll be fine. Rose nodded slowly. All right, thank you again. Truly. Jude held his file tightly and started running off. Rose watched him leave, her eyes soft. She whispered, such a good man, and he refused to ride. But Jude did not even hear her. He was already rushing down the road, trying to catch whatever little time he had left. Jude ran with all his strength. When he reached the gate, he was breathing hard. He walked inside the reception. I'm here for the interview, he said softly. The woman at the front desk glanced at him with a harsh look. You are 30 minutes late. This company does not accept people who cannot keep time. Please, Jude said gently. Something came up on the road. Sir, she cut him off. You are not competent. You can leave now. Her words hit Jude like a stone. He stood still for a moment. Then he slowly turned around and walked out. Outside the building, he stopped beside a tree and held his file close to his chest. His eyes filled with pain. He whispered, God, what am I doing wrong? He did not know that the same woman he helped, the same woman who watched him walk away, would soon become the one person who would change everything. But for now, Jude walked slowly down the road, not knowing that destiny was not done with him yet. Meanwhile, when Rose arrived at the boardroom for the meeting, everyone stood up to greet her. The investors were waiting. Papers were on the table. The atmosphere was serious. But Rose's mind was far away. As she sat down, one of the investors said, Madam Rose, shall we start? Rose blinked and forced a small smile. Yes, let's begin. But even while they talked about figures, contracts, and plans, her mind kept returning to the young man who fixed her car that morning. She remembered the way he rushed, the way he kept checking his wristwatch, the worry on his face. She remembered how he refused a ride even though he looked like he needed help more than she did. She whispered softly to herself, I hope he is fine. I hope stopping to help me did not cause him trouble. For some reason, she felt uneasy. Something about him touched her heart. She sensed he was carrying a heavy load, but still chose kindness. One of the board members spoke louder, pulling her back. Madam, is everything all right? You seem distracted. Rose straightened her back. I'm fine. Let's continue. Later on, she pushed the thought aside and focused on the meeting. That afternoon, Jude walked slowly down his street. His steps were weak. He felt empty. He felt tired. The sun was hot, but his heart felt colder than ever. He did not regret helping the woman. Deep inside, he knew it was the right thing. But the fact that he did not even get a chance to sit for the interview broke him deeply. They didn't listen. They didn't care. They only saw that he was late. He wiped a tear before it dropped. As he reached his small house, he saw Lucy standing at the door with her arms folded. She moved closer. So, how did it go? Did they give you the job? Jude looked down. Lucy, they didn't even interview me. They told me to leave because I came late. Lucy stepped closer with sharp eyes. Why were you late, Jude? Tell me. Jude took a slow breath. Lucy, on my way there, I saw a woman stranded. Her car stopped by a quiet street. She looked scared. She begged me to help her. I could not leave her there alone. So I helped her fix the car. That is why I got to the company late. Lucy's face changed immediately. Her anger rose like fire. So you mean? She shouted. You left your own life, your own job interview to help a stranger? Are you serious? Lucy, she was alone, Jude said softly. The place was empty. Anything could have happened to her. So what? She screamed. Let her call someone else. Let her suffer. Did she give you money? Did she give you food? Did she give you a job? Jude, you are foolish. Foolish. Lucy, please. Don't please me, she yelled. You threw away an opportunity because of your nonsense kindness. This is why your life is like this. You think kindness will pay our bills? You think kindness will feed me? Jude stood quietly, pain filling his chest. Lucy pointed at him with anger. You lost the interview because you wanted to be a hero. Look at you now. A poor man who cannot think. Lucy, please, Jude said quietly. I was only what? She cut him sharply. You are lazy. You are slow. You are useless. I am tired, Jude. I am tired of living with a failed man. Every day I wake up and look at you. I feel empty. Lucy, I tried, Jude whispered. Please don't speak like this. You know I am trying. She did not listen. Instead, she walked inside the room. Jude followed slowly, breathing hard. He watched her pull her suitcase from the wardrobe. She packed her clothes quickly. She didn't even fold them. Lucy, stop, Jude said with a trembling voice. Let's talk, please. She zipped her suitcase. Talk about what? About your failure? About this poor life? Jude, I am done. I want a better life. Jude's eyes became wet. I will get a better life. Just give me some time. Lucy carried her suitcase to the living room. Time? She scoffed. You have wasted enough time. I am leaving. Jude fell on his knees, tears forming in his eyes. Please, please don't leave me. Please. She walked to the door. Jude reached out his hand. Lucy, please. She looked back one last time. Get a better life, Jude. I cannot suffer with you. Then she walked out and closed the door behind her. Silence filled the whole house. Jude sat on the floor holding his file, shaking. Felt like the world fell on him at once. His chest hurt. His tears dropped without control. He whispered, God, why me? He didn't know that life was about to take him through a journey that would shock him and everyone around him. A week passed slowly, like heavy clouds hanging over Jude's life. He sat alone in his small living room, staring at nothing. The room was quiet, too quiet. The silence reminded him of everything he had lost. He held his hands together and whispered, So this is it. This is my life now. He had no job. He had missed a big opportunity, and Lucy, his own wife, was already gone. He felt something press on his chest. It was the painful truth. He was now alone. Jude rested his head on the wall. What will I do now? He asked himself. He thought of doing menial jobs, maybe working as a laborer at a construction site or anything at all. As he sat there thinking, deep in worry, he suddenly heard a knock on the door. Jude lifted his head slowly. Who could that be? He whispered. He stood up weakly and walked to the door. When he opened it, a young man stood outside holding a brown envelope. Good morning, sir, the young man said. Good morning, Jude replied quietly. How can I help you? The young man glanced at a paper in his hand to confirm the name. Please, sir, are you Mr. Jude? Jude nodded slowly. Yes, I am. The young man stretched the envelope toward him. This is for you. Jude collected it gently. Thank you. The young man nodded and walked away. Jude closed the door and walked back inside. His hands shook a little as he held the envelope. Something inside him felt strange, heavy. He slowly opened it. Inside was a paper, a divorce letter, and Lucy's wedding ring. Jude froze. He looked at the ring, then at the letter, then back at the ring again. His breath became slow. His eyes became wet. He whispered, She really did it. She really left. He held the ring in his hand and his body went weak. He fell back on the chair like someone whose strength had been taken away. His heart broke completely. He placed the ring on his chest and closed his eyes, crying silently. I lost everything. Everything, he whispered. That night, Jude sat alone in the dark room. The only sound he heard was his own quiet breathing. His eyes were tired, but his mind refused to rest. He whispered to himself, I cannot just sit here. I must survive. I must do something. After thinking for a long time, he finally made a decision. He would do any menial job he could find, and at the same time he would keep submitting his CV to different companies. Maybe one day something would change. He laid down slowly and closed his eyes. The next morning, Jude stepped out early. The sun was not hot yet, but he already felt the weight of the day on his shoulders. He walked around the streets looking for any work he could find. He stopped at a small shop. "Good morning, sir. Please, is there any job I can do here?" The shop owner looked at him from head to toe. "No vacancy, and even if there was, you look too educated for this kind of work." Jude nodded quietly. "Thank you." He kept walking. He went to several other places. Some told him there was no vacancy. Some looked at him and refused to believe he could do hard manual jobs. Some ignored him completely. By afternoon, the sun was high and hot. Jude wiped sweat from his face and kept walking. Then he reached a large construction site. Men were lifting blocks. Some were mixing cement. Others carried sand on their heads. The place was noisy and busy. Jude swallowed hard. Maybe they will accept me here. He stepped inside the site. One of the workers looked up. "Yes, who are you looking for?" "Please, I am looking for work," Jude said gently. "Any work at all?" The worker pointed toward a small shed. "Go there. The supervisor is sitting under that shade." Jude walked there slowly. The supervisor, a big man with a serious face, sat on a plastic chair, resting his legs on a block. "Good afternoon, sir," Jude said quietly. The supervisor looked at him without smiling. "What do you want?" "Please, I am looking for a job. I can carry blocks. I can fetch water. I can do anything." The man looked at Jude again. "You look like someone who has office experience. Why do you want this kind of work?" Jude sighed. "Sir, life happened. I just need a chance. Please." The man rubbed his chin. "We don't have space." Jude stepped closer. "Sir, please. I am begging. I will not disappoint you. Just give me one day. If I fail, you can send me away." The man stared at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "All right. Come tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. sharp. If you come late, don't bother coming." Jude's face softened with relief. "Thank you, sir. Thank you very much." The next day, Jude woke up before dawn. The sky was still dark when he stepped outside. He walked fast to the construction site. By the time he arrived, some men were already working. He greeted them quietly and began his tasks. He carried heavy blocks. He fetched water. He mixed cement. He wiped sweat again and again. His hands hurt. His back hurt. His legs shook. But he did not stop. As he worked, his mind drifted back to his old life. The house he once lived in, the good job he once had, the dates he used to take Lucy on, the gifts he bought her, the laughter they shared. Then the day Lucy left replayed in his head. Her cold voice, her angry words, her packed bag. Jude closed his eyes for a moment, holding back tears. Then he whispered quietly, "Some people stay only when life is sweet, when the money is there, but when things become hard, they leave." He opened his eyes again and lifted another block. Day after day, Jude kept working at the site, and some days he still found time to submit his CV to different companies. Even though his life was hard, he kept hoping that one day something good would finally come. Meanwhile, in another busy part of the city, Madame Rose continued her normal daily life. Every morning, her driver picked her up. Every day, she signed documents, attended meetings, and made long business calls. Her schedule was always full. She barely had time to rest. But every morning, each time she sat in the back seat of her car and her driver began to move, her mind would go back to the young man who had helped her that day. She would look out of the window quietly and whisper to herself, "I hope he is fine." She remembered how he still stopped to help her even though he was clearly in a hurry. She remembered the kindness in his eyes and the tiredness he tried to hide. Sometimes she wished she had asked for his number or his name. Sometimes she wished she could see him again just to thank him properly. She touched her chest softly. "If he didn't help me that morning, I could have been stuck in danger," she whispered, "and I might have missed the deal I went to sign." Madame Rose admired his kind heart. In her world where people only cared about money and benefits, meeting someone who helped with a pure heart felt different. special. But she had no time to look for him. The business deal she signed that same day, the government housing estate project, was huge. It demanded all her attention. She spent hours planning, doing budgets, and holding meetings. Sometimes she didn't even go home early. Her secretary often knocked on her office door. "Madam, you have another meeting in 5 minutes." Rose would sigh. Because of all this pressure, the thought of Jude slowly pushed itself to the back of her mind, but never disappeared completely. Days passed slowly, one after another. Jude continued his new life as a construction worker. Every morning, he woke up before the sun came out and walked out into the cold morning air. At the construction site, he mixed cement with his hands shaking from the weight. He lifted blocks until his shoulders hurt. He pushed wheelbarrows full of sand even when his legs felt weak. But every day when the job was done and the supervisor handed him his small pay, Jude thanked him with a quiet voice. "Thank you, sir," he would say. But he never complained. He never stopped believing. Sometimes, even with tired legs, he still found time to iron his shirt, arrange his CV, and walk to nearby offices. "Good evening. Please, I came to submit my CV," he would say gently. Some accepted it. Some didn't even look at him. Some told him to drop it and never called. Still, Jude walked home with hope in his heart. Meanwhile, the construction team Jude worked with did not stay in one location. Sometimes they worked at a site far away. Sometimes it was a different part of the city. Sometimes it was a dangerous, quiet area. Jude would leave his house early in the morning and return when it was already late in the night. His clothes covered in cement, his hands full of blisters, his eyes heavy. But even with the pain, he whispered each night, "One day things will get better. I know they will." He held on to that hope like a light in the darkness. At the same time, far away in her own world, Madame Rose was making progress too. She had finished all the plans for the government housing estate project. The drawings were ready, the budget was complete, the documents were signed, and now the project had been handed over to contractors who would start the building work. That morning, as Jude arrived at the construction site, he noticed the workers gathered in a small crowd. The supervisor stood in front of them with his hands behind his back. "Listen, everyone," the supervisor said. "We are working at a different site today. Pack the tools. We are moving." Jude nodded quietly and joined the others. They carried their tools, loading everything into the back of an old truck. The sun was still rising, but sweat was already forming on Jude's forehead. After they finished, the men climbed into the back of the truck. Jude sat between two workers, holding the edge of the truck tightly as it began to move. The road was rough, and the truck shook with every bump, but Jude remained calm. When they finally arrived at the new location, the place was wide and dusty. There were piles of sand, stones, and long iron rods scattered across the ground. It looked like a building project that had just begun. The supervisor blew his whistle. "Start work." Jude and the other workers began to mix cement, their hands moving fast. Some carried blocks, others pushed heavy wheelbarrows filled with sand. Sweat rolled down their faces as they worked under the hot sun. The supervisor moved around, watching them closely. Days slowly passed. The work continued from morning till evening, and the team kept returning to the same big, dusty location. One day, as Jude lifted another block, he felt a sharp pain in his back, but he pushed through it. He knew he had no choice. He needed the money, no matter how small. Hours passed, and when it was finally break time, Jude walked to a quiet corner under a small tree. He sat on a block and brought out a snack he bought with the little change he saved from the day before. He opened the small nylon and took a gentle bite. It wasn't much, but it was all he had. As he ate, he stared at the site and breathed deeply. Some weeks after the project had started, Madame Rose finally decided it was time to visit the construction site. She wanted to see how the work was going with her own eyes. That same morning, her driver drove to the construction site, and when they got there, her driver opened the car door for her, and she stepped out gracefully, followed closely by her personal assistant. As she walked toward the site, several workers stopped to look at her. Her clothes, her confidence, and her presence made it clear she was someone important. Madame Rose called out, Please. Where's the site supervisor? A man hurried forward. Good morning, madam. Here I am, ma'am, he said. I want you to take me around, Rose said calmly. Yes, madam. Please follow me. He led her through the construction site. They walked past piles of sand, blocks, iron rods, and men working under the hot sun. Rose listened as the supervisor explained the progress they had made. Her PA walked beside her, taking notes. Then suddenly, Madame Rose stopped walking. Her eyes locked on someone. A man mixing cement with so much strength and focus. Sweat rolling down his face. His shirt stained from hard work. She stared harder. Her eyes widened a little. Her heart skipped. It's him, she whispered softly. Her PA looked at her. Madam, is everything all right? Rose did not answer. She took a slow step forward. It was him. The same man she had been hoping to see again. The same man who helped her that morning when her car broke down. And now here he was working as a laborer. At that same moment, Jude lifted his head. He saw a well-dressed woman standing across from him. She looked familiar. He squinted, trying to remember where he had seen her. Rose walked closer. Jude wiped his forehead and stared at her more carefully. Good afternoon, Rose said with a gentle smile. Do you remember me? Jude looked confused. Madam, I think we have met before, but I cannot remember where. Rose smiled more. I am the woman whose car stopped that morning. The day you were rushing somewhere. Jude's eyes slowly widened. Ah, yes, madam. I remember now. Thank you again, Rose said softly. You helped me that morning. I never forgot. Jude looked down shyly. It was nothing, madam. Anyone would have helped. Rose shook her head gently. No, not everyone would have stopped. You did. She paused and looked at him again. Her eyes soft but also curious. What's your name? She asked softly. Jude, he replied with a faint smile. Jude, may I ask something? She said. Yes, madam, Jude replied. Why are you here? Rose asked quietly. You do not look like someone who belongs in this kind of job. Jude took a deep breath. His eyes fell to the ground. Madam, it is a long story. I am willing to hear it, Rose said warmly. If you don't mind sharing. Jude looked into her eyes. Something inside him felt a small lift, a small hope. Someone finally cared enough to ask. He nodded slowly. Okay, madam, I will tell you. Madame Rose turned to the supervisor beside her. Excuse me, she said softly. I would like to speak with this young man alone. The supervisor nodded quickly. Yes, madam. No problem at all. Jude looked around and pointed toward a small tree a short distance away. Let's go over there, he said. Okay, Rose replied as they walked. Rose spoke to her personal assistant. Please wait for me here. Do not follow. Yes, the PA said, stepping aside. As they arrived at the tree, there was an old wooden bench there. They both sat down on the bench. Rose folded her hands. Jude, I want to know your story. You told me it was a long one. I am ready to listen. Jude looked at the ground for a moment, then began. Madam, I used to have a good life. I had a very good job. I worked as an engineer in a big company. I had a good house. I had a car. I had a wife who I loved so much. Rose listened without blinking. But one day, everything changed. My company went bankrupt. I lost my job. I tried very hard to find another one, but nothing worked. And as things got hard, my wife changed too. Rose's eyes softened. Jude's voice became low. She began to insult me every day. She said I was lazy. She said I was useless. She said I was no longer a man. Jude took a deep breath. Madam, the day I helped you with your car, I was actually going for a job interview. I was already running late, but when you asked for help, I couldn't walk away. I fixed your car, but it made me late. He looked down at his hands. When I got to the company, they told me to leave. They didn't even interview me. They said I was not serious. I lost the opportunity. He paused, his voice softer now. That loss and the reason for losing it became the final straw. It broke everything. My wife was already angry because I had no job. And when she heard I missed the interview because I helped someone, she said I was foolish. She called me a failure. She insulted me again that day, and she left. He swallowed hard. She divorced me because of it. She even sent her ring and the divorce papers through a courier. Rose shook her head slowly, her heart becoming heavy. I am so sorry, Jude. Jude forced a small smile. It is fine, madam. Life happens. I knew I had to survive, so I came here. I took this job even though it is hard. I needed something, anything to keep me going. He paused and looked away. There are days I don't eat, Jude added quietly. But I keep hoping. I keep believing that one day things will change. For a moment, Rose didn't speak. She just stared at him deeply. She had seen men who pretended to be good. But Jude, he had nothing, yet he still had a kind heart. He helped her when he needed help more. He worked hard even in pain. Rose took a slow breath. Jude, you have been through so much. Rose sat quietly for a moment after Jude finished speaking. Her heart was full. She had heard many stories in her life, but something about Jude's story touched her deeply. She looked at him carefully and said, Jude, what did you study in school? Jude wiped his hand on his trouser and replied softly, Petrochemical engineering, madam. Rose's eyes widened a little. You studied petrochemical engineering? Yes, madam, Jude said. That was the job I lost. Rose slowly reached into her handbag and brought out a business card. She stretched it toward him. Take this, she said gently. This is my business card. Call me tomorrow morning. I will really like to help you. Jude looked confused. Madam, I'll call you? Rose smiled softly. Just call me, please. Jude collected the card with shaky hands. Thank you, madam. That night, when Madame Rose got home, she did not sit down like she normally did. She did not rest. She did not even remove her shoes. She walked straight to her study and picked up her phone. She dialed a number. Hello, good evening, she said. A male voice answered. Good evening, madam. I want you to get something ready, Rose said firmly. I need to speak with the general manager of the petrochemical branch tonight. The man hesitated. Tonight, madam? Yes, Rose replied. It is urgent. Within minutes, she was connected to the general manager. Good evening, Madam Rose, he greeted. I have someone I want you to see tomorrow, a man with strong experience in petrochemical engineering. I want you to prepare an interview for him and look at him closely. Yes, madam. What is his name? The manager asked. His name is Jude, she replied. I will send more details in the morning. Rose ended the call and sat down slowly. She whispered, He helped me. Now it is my turn. The next morning, Jude woke up early as usual. He prepared for work, his mind still thinking about the day before. He had kept Madame Rose's card close to him all night, holding on to it like a small light of hope. Now he took the card from the table, looked at it for a moment, then dialed the number. The phone rang once. Good morning, madam. It's Jude. You asked me to call. Yes, Rose said. Can you come to my office this morning? Bring your CV. I am sending you the address now. Jude froze. Madam, your office? Yes, she said. Come as soon as you can. I will come, madam. Thank you. He ended the call, shocked. He stood still for a moment. Then he rushed to open his bag and took out his best shirt, the clean one he saved for special days. He tucked it into his trousers, combed his hair neatly, held his file, and stepped out. He boarded a bus and prayed quietly as it moved through the city. When Jude arrived at the address, he stood in front of a tall, beautiful building. He checked the card again. It was the right place. Inside, a receptionist greeted him warmly. Good morning, sir. How may I help you? Jude held his file tightly. Good morning. I have an appointment with Madame Rose. She nodded politely. All right, sir. Please, what is your name? My name is Jude, he replied. She picked up the intercom. Please hold on while I confirm.